All right, we are back here in the 3 News Digital Center. Mike Gillespie. What we're giving you a look at here is a picture of Bay Area Hospital over on Williams Drive. And this is all in relation to the passing of Officer Kyle Hicks, something that we learned about during our newscast at 5 o'clock yesterday and were first able to report. Lots of people have gathered there, both police officers in uniform, many people out of uniform, and a lot of other folks we suspect who were there doing something today that is called a walk of honor. And you can see just behind the cars underneath the canopy where an ambulance is, a lot of people there who you can't see because of where our camera is placed right now, but you are able to see, if you look over to the right, the tops of heads and people lined up on the stairwell there. What we understand that they're doing, I spoke with Chief Mike Markle this afternoon, and what they are doing is called a walk of honor for Officer Hicks. As we did report to you yesterday after his tragic passing, Officer Hicks was an organ donor. And so one of the things that they'll be doing today is placing his remains inside the ambulance that you see there, and then that will be taken by police escort over to the airport, where we understand that his remains will be flown to a harvesting center in Dallas. Again, Officer Hicks giving that gift of life is something that his family is honoring, and Corpus Christi Police are going to be a part of that. Now, people have been gathering there for a little over an hour now. Our understanding is that they were shooting for a 2 o'clock time to begin that procession, but obviously as more people have come in, that has been delayed just a little bit. We've been watching this now for about a half hour, and we've seen police officers on motorcycles. We've seen police patrol cars there in the parking lot, and even lined up across the street in a different parking lot. So we don't have an idea yet of just how many will be involved in this. But again, judging from the number of people who were there to pay their respects and the crowds that we have seen of people who were there, we imagine that this will be a fairly large procession. We don't have an idea right now of what time exactly they will be heading over to the airport, but we do suspect that as soon as the remains of Officer Hicks are loaded into the ambulance that you see there beneath the canopy, that procession will begin. We did see police officers on motorcycle units just a moment ago putting their helmets on, and so we assume that means they are getting closer. Of course, this all started last weekend when Officer Hicks was shot early Saturday morning while responding to a domestic disturbance call at a Southside apartment complex. He was shot. The officers who were with him were able to return fire and kill the suspect. Officer Hicks, though, was taken to the hospital with the injuries that he sustained. We have been telling you all week and continuing to bring you information as not only people in our community, but also agencies from across the state and even across the nation have expressed their concern and their support for Officer Hicks and his family during what has been an incredibly difficult day. And then the story changed yesterday as we got word during our 5 o'clock newscast that Officer Hicks had indeed passed away from his injuries. Now, also in speaking with Chief Markle, which is where I learned about the walk of honor that they're doing this afternoon, I also did ask about the arrangements, any kind of funeral arrangements, because we know that many people have been writing and phoning into our newsroom asking questions about that. Chief Markle was able to tell me that they are still working with the family on those arrangements, and so there's nothing really that they can share at this time. We do have assurances that as soon as there is something concrete in place, that they'll let us know, and we, of course, will quickly let you know about that. Today, though, is about the Walk of Honor, as people are gathering there at Bay Area Hospital on Williams Drive. And we suspect here that in just any minute now, they will be escorting that ambulance that you see there under the canopy at the hospital over to the airport, where, as we mentioned earlier, Officer Hicks's remains will be taken and flown to Dallas, where he will go to a harvesting center. As we have told you, it is because he is an organ donor. And so we're not sure exactly all of the specific details of how that process will work, but we know that there are many folks lined up, lots of police officers present there, as at some time this afternoon they plan to transport the ambulance that is carrying, or escort rather, the ambulance that is carrying Officer Hicks's body over to the airport. And you can see as we pull out there some of the police officers on motorcycle units. We mentioned all of the others standing there beneath that canopy. We did see earlier many saluting the ambulance as they came to join in and to be a part of this tribute and this honor. There are police officer patrol units there in the parking lot. You can see there again at Bay Area Hospital. We also spotted earlier some that were even across the street, and of course many cars, not police units, that are there for the people who have joined in. We even see a fire truck that we imagine will be a part of this procession, and as you look and can see on down the block there, the patrol units of police officers. Earlier, we were also able to spot what appeared to be a Coast Guard helicopter that was circling over the top of the hospital there. Just indicative of what we have been telling you as we have been covering the story this week of all of the different agencies and all of the people who have expressed their support and their concern over what was happening with this situation. And of course, we expect that now to grow now that Officer Hicks has passed away. That happened yesterday afternoon, and this is just the beginning of what we expect will be several other days of honor. Right now, though, the goal is to take his body to the airport, where it will then be flown to Dallas to a harvest center. That in keeping with Officer Hicks's wishes, as he was in fact an organ donor. And so that's going to be taking place here, we suspect, just any time now. It is typically a full parking lot anyway at Bay Area Hospital there. But as you can see, with others who are getting word of what's happening and others who have been arriving perhaps late, but many folks who were there for this procession and to pay honor and to pay tribute to Officer Hicks. And we have continued to watch this, and we've been doing so since about 2 o'clock. That was the tentative time that was set up for people to come and be a part of this procession. And we're keeping an eye on any movement and anything we see. Now, as we get closer, you begin to see more and more of the number of police officers who are there, again, joined by others, but we are struck in particular by the number of police officers who have taken the time and who are here, again, because this is one of their own. And this is, thankfully, a tragedy that we have not seen in this city since the 1980s. I believe it was 1987 was the last time that an officer was shot and killed in the line of duty. Now, since then, other officers have died, and we have seen very public funerals. We have seen processions, and we suspect that it will be no less in this case for Officer Kyle Hicks, whose life was taken during a domestic disturbance call that he was responding to in the early morning hours of last Saturday. As more people gather and as we see some movement there among the police officers, we would only be guessing here, only speculating, but we imagine that they are still waiting for the body to be taken into the ambulance. And once that has happened and once that is done, then the ambulance will be taken and escorted by who knows how many officers to the airport. And so we're going to keep an eye on that as they will do that from the parking lot there of Bay Area Hospital. And again, nothing in particular happening right now. When we talked with Chief Barkle earlier, he told us that 2 o'clock was a tentative time for this walk of honor, and people began arriving about an hour earlier than that. So there have been folks there for quite a while, and they, as we are waiting to see the procession and are waiting to be a part of this. But at this point, it looks like everyone's attention is focused on what is happening beneath the canopy there at Bay Area Hospital. And we were mentioning, too, that not only Corpus Christi Police, but there have already been inquiries that have come in from other agencies across the state and even, of course, across the nation. We talk about this kind of thing happening all too often, and and it happens here in our country. And when it does, the brotherhood of police officers, law enforcement officers respond in sometimes very tangible and very dramatic ways. And we suspect that that will be the case here. No less of an honor offered for Officer Kyle Hicks than we have seen in other places where officers have been injured, and unfortunately, the officers who have died while performing their duty to keep us safe. We did hear last night, if you were with us last night at 10, we were able to hear from the mayor as she and other city leaders, county leaders have expressed their condolences and have just reminded us all of what an important job these first responders do and what they are doing in order to protect us, in order to serve us in so many significant ways as they go about performing their jobs. And of course, there is an inherent danger to that. And while they do everything to keep themselves protected, while they do everything to try to resolve situations peacefully, while they do all that they can to avoid any kind of hostility, any kind of violence, any kind of injury, there are unfortunately times when no matter the preparation, they face something like this, where an officer's life is taken and other officers have to respond, and that has been the case here. More people you see gathering on the stairwells there as they're looking over what is happening down beneath the canopy. We see the ambulance, we see the officers whose attention, along with the others, are standing turned toward that. Even some of the medical professionals, as Officer Hicks has been there at Bay Area, as we have reported throughout the week, as he has been in the hospital. And we see some of the medical professionals and can only imagine some of those are there who have been watching and attending to both him, offering comfort and a sense of peace to his family. And now as they try to bring some closure to this unfortunate incident that we are going to be witnessing here today, and will continue to watch in the days and we suspect in the coming weeks ahead. Now, as we've told you, they are planning to escort the body of Officer Hicks to the airport where his body will be flown to Dallas. He is an organ donor, and that's where those organs will be harvested. We would only be speculating to try to tell you how long something like that would take, or how long that will, his body will be there, or those kinds of details, as we're not doctors here, obviously, and so we don't have a firm handle on that yet. But we do know that the police department here is working with the family on arrangements. We don't have any information about any kind of public arrangements, a public funeral, whether any of that is even in the offering. Right now, the first priority is for this to be taken care of, and for Officer Hicks and for the organs that Officer Hicks wanted to donate, for that to be done, and to be done in a proper and timely and right way. And so that's what we're looking at today, and that is the plan as we understand it, happening there at Bay Area Hospital. Now you can see, as we've been watching, cars from time to time pulling in, but there's really just no room there in the hospital. And for someone who has other business there, we would advise you that you're going to need to find another parking space and maybe have to take the long way around, or if your business is not pressing, this may be a good day to just back off and plan for a later time, or perhaps even a later day in order to take care of that. The parking lot is full, not only with the cars that are normally there, the cars, though, of others who have joined, as you see even down the road there, cars of others who have joined to come and be a part of this. Police cars lined up across the street, police cars lined up down the other way along the road, and of course the crowd that we saw with a lot of people there standing under the canopy near the ambulance that we believe will soon be carrying the body, the remains of Officer Kyle Hicks, as police will escort that to the airport so that may be flown to Dallas, where he will then be able to follow through, his family will, with the organ donation. We're looking back and you see underneath the canopy to the right, that's just kind of where that line ends, but more and more people crowded in over to your left there under other canopies as they are facing the ambulance. And it's been interesting for us to watch here because there hasn't been a lot of movement. People don't seem to be talking or turning or looking. Everyone has got their attention focused forward, which gives you an idea of just how somber an occasion like this is and just how important something like this is. You don't see people talking in line. You don't see, as you might suspect in some cases, a lot of people holding up cell phones or trying to record that because they know perhaps that they can just sense as they watch this scene that this is something bigger and something beyond that. This would not be an appropriate time to do something like that. And so people are standing and watching and waiting and hoping that they'll be able to somehow honor and give their support not only to the Corpus Christi Police Department, but also to the family of Officer Hicks. And it's not just the people who were down near where the ambulance is, but you even look above and you see the two flights there of people who are looking really for any space that they can move into in order to be able to see this and to be able to witness this, but more than that, just to be able to silently, in most cases, be able to pay their respects to this officer who gave his life in the line of duty, protecting people like you and me, the people of Corpus Christi, and knowing the danger perhaps that he would face in doing that. As we've been reporting here, Officer Hicks has been with the force, the Corpus Christi Police Department, for 2 years, and so certainly has been out and been a part of the first response to many, many such situations. But again, you see the people gathering there. Appears to be some kind of movement there beneath the canopy as officers are now turning and walking, and it looks like perhaps they have, I'm guessing here, but perhaps they have loaded the remains of Officer Hicks into that ambulance, and soon that ambulance will be pulling forward, and we'll see police officers moving to their units and being ready to escort the body to the airport. You see people appearing now to leave that area, so that is our indication that something has happened there, and we suspect they'll be moving now over to the various police units, perhaps the personal vehicles, in order to get ready for that escort. We're also struck by the fact that this was not just Corpus Christi police officers. We see officers from the Sheriff's Department, state troopers, Border Patrol. This is not unusual. This is something that happens whenever there is a fallen officer. It is very quick and very apparent that other agencies from across the state, from across the city, from across the area move in order to be a part of paying respect and tribute. That is how highly they think of one another. There's no competition among those law enforcement agencies, and right now, as one agency is hurting, all of them are, and that has been expressed to us. You see the police officers on their motorcycle units moving into place now. As cars are beginning to follow them, people moving quickly back to their vehicles in order to be a part of what we expect will be a lengthy procession leading out to the airport, where Officer Hicks's body will be loaded onto an airplane and, as we understand it, flown to Dallas to a harvesting center because he is an organ donor. Again, so many people there, just such a massive crowd that those who were under the canopy are still coming out and are still moving away. And more officers in uniform than we were able to see earlier, or that we even thought might have been there, but so many of them there who were still moving away and moving out and moving to be a part of this. Others who we suspect caught word of what was happening, perhaps from the police department, perhaps from other agencies, many who perhaps were just there doing business. And so they are moving on now to do what Chief Markle said to me earlier was what was called a walk of honor, as they take Officer Hicks's remains to Dallas, where there will be a lengthy police escort taking them to the airport, and we expect that that will be getting underway momentarily here. Again, this all began last weekend when Officer Hicks, responding to a domestic disturbance call with other officers, was shot, was taken to the hospital, and we have been watching and looking with amazement all week at the outpouring of support from the people in our community toward the Corpus Christi Police Department, and that has come from just all walks of life and across all areas and all agencies. We see the movement there as police officers again moving their units into some sort of orderly fashion to be a part of this procession that has not yet begun. We suspect that the motorcycle officers and the movement of the ambulance will signal when that is ready to begin. And so far, the ambulance remains under the hospital canopy there just to your left. We did get word, unfortunately, as we have been following this, of Officer Hicks passing yesterday during our 5 p.m. newscast, and we're able to bring you that word immediately. And then again, by 6 o'clock, we were able to be at the police headquarters where people had already shown up, a makeshift memorial of sorts there with people not really knowing what to do other than to stand and to hug and to express their grief. Flowers there at that memorial. And then, of course, last night we continued to see that as we heard from various city and county leaders talking about the sacrifice of this officer. You can see the Corpus Christi Fire Department with a truck there. Other police units will be coming out. We suspect we will see if we're looking hard enough, and if they're able to go by where our camera is, we will perhaps see those from the Sheriff's Department. I did see Border Patrol earlier, and so many others who were there as a way of offering their honor and their tribute. And again, for those who may have just joined us or are just checking in, this is over at Bay Area Hospital along Williams Drive, and you can see people pulling into the parking lot there and who may be wondering what's happening. And we would suggest that if you're seeing this and you're planning to come, you may want to wait for a while as some of these units, some of these cars begin to pull out and clear up some of the parking spaces there. If you do need to go, though, and can't wait, then you may end up having to find another entrance to the hospital, or at least stay away. I believe this is over on the back side of the hospital. At least stay clear of that for now. They are gathering in order to, as we were told earlier, provide an escort, a police escort, over to our airport, where the body of Officer Kyle Hicks, who passed away, we were informed yesterday afternoon, will be loaded onto an airplane and taken to the Dallas area. It is there that he will, his family will be able to uphold his final wishes of being an organ donor. He will be taken to a harvesting center. And we were saying earlier that how long that takes is really, someone else would have to weigh in on that, because we don't know. We can endeavor to try to find out that information, but right now we don't have any idea of what will happen once the body is taken to Dallas, how long that will happen, what will happen in terms of a public funeral or of any arrangements. We did check in with Chief Mike Markle of Corpus Christi Police earlier today, and he said right now they are still working on that, but there's just nothing to share. And as you can imagine, you try to prepare for these things, but you get word that a loved one has died, as many of you know, and suddenly there are other things that take precedence. There are other things that happen that need your immediate attention, and those kinds of details are not sometimes the first things that are put together. Also, when something like this happens involving a public servant, especially a police officer, as has happened here, then we know that there's much more planning that must go into that. A whole lot more of the details have to be worked out. This is something that takes time, so much coordination, and so much effort for those who are going to be a part of any kind of public funeral that may take place. Again, we don't know those details. We are working to find them as soon as they come together, and we have been assured that once those are in place, we will be given that information, and as you can suspect, we will then give you that information. You can count on the fact that we will report that as soon as we know it. Right now, we've been keeping an eye over on things happening at Bay Area Hospital, as many were gathered there earlier. Many have now left. They were standing under the canopy, and they have left to gone back to police units. They've left to go back to their cars. In just a moment, and we don't know when that moment will be, but we suspect we're getting close here. In just a moment, the Corpus Christi police officers and perhaps others will be joining in a procession as they escort an ambulance over to the airport, that ambulance carrying the body of Officer Kyle Hicks, who unfortunately, tragically, passed away yesterday. And that will be taken to the airport, where he will then be flown to Dallas, where he will be able to be a part of the organ donation program at a harvesting center there. We have seen so many, and I mentioned Border Protection, Border Patrol agents I thought I saw earlier, and there's some confirmation as one of their units goes by. We saw what appeared to be a Coast Guard helicopter circling atop of the hospital as we checked in with the beginning of this. And as you can see now, the line of motorcycle officers beginning to pull out, followed closely behind by the ambulance. And this is what we have been talking about for about the last hour now. And this is what we have been waiting for, as they are in a very somber, very respectful way escorting the body of Officer Kyle Hicks to our airport, where the body will then be flown to Dallas. Now, we don't know how long this procession will be, but we do have our camera there set up just across the street from the hospital, and you can see the motorcycle officers who were leading that Allegiance Mobile Health ambulance, and other officers in patrol units we suspect will quickly line up behind that and take that procession then down the road from there over to the airport. Again, not able to give you a picture yet because the ambulance is just about to pull out onto the road. But once that happens, you can see the other officers waiting, and we believe that they will very quickly get in line and follow the ambulance. Again, this is what Chief Mike Markle told me earlier is what is called a walk of honor for Officer Kyle Hicks, something that they do in the face of a tragedy like this, something that his brothers and sisters and other first responders, those of not only the Corpus Christi Police Force, but others, are certainly honored to be able to do, and would think of doing no less in a situation like this. Now you can see as the Sheriff's Office and other police units begin to get into line. Again, many of them have lined up on the backside of the hospital there. We saw others who were already in the road waiting, and still others who were lined up across the street. So it has been our belief that this will be a fairly lengthy procession, making its way across town from the Bay Area Hospital over to the airport. And we're going to continue to keep an eye on that. And as we see those officers lining up, and as we see those cars performing and taking part in the walk of honor for Officer Hicks. Now, this is a live look along SPID, and we don't see anything yet, but we don't know the exact route that they'll be taking. But again, we do have a photographer out there at the hospital. We are going to keep watching this. We do know where they're headed, and that is to the Corpus Christi Airport. And if we do get a sense of that line of cars coming that direction, then we'll certainly show you that as well. But right now, if you just take a look, you can see that they're at a standstill. That's to be expected. It is not an easy thing, even with the lights and the sirens, to be able to move a procession this large across, well, really any section of the city. And so with the officers on their motorbikes leading the way. We suspect that they're going to have to go through and stop traffic at various intersections as they'll make their way over to the highway in order to get to the airport. And that is something that, again, is not something that can happen very quickly, even with the best plans in place. And so as we're watching and we see even more and more of those units, of those officers lining up to be a part of this procession, we know that this is going to take a while, but it is something that they are willing to do, something they are willing to be a part of, no matter how long it takes, as the procession to the airport for now deceased Officer Kyle Hicks takes place this afternoon. We're getting a sense also not only of the officers and the units that are lined up there, but we see some of the others who have come to be a part of this, people not only in the parking lot, but also people who were there because maybe they were notified or because they got word that this was happening. And it is a tangible way to show just a little bit of the appreciation that we feel, not only for Officer Hicks and the sorrow that many share in this tragedy, but also the appreciation for all of those who are first responders, who are protecting us, who are putting their lives on the line, who are serving us day in and day out. And so when word of something like this, when news of something like this gets out, you can imagine that it didn't take long for this many police officers and others to come and to be there at the hospital in order to take part. They began organizing and gathering at about 1 o'clock this afternoon, and it was, well, after about 2:45, I think, before they finally got things going and started to move in that direction. And again, we're keeping an eye here on the highway, and we're watching along SPID. It also appears you can see a lot of cars being diverted off of the highway there. I think that would be my guess, as you see that there are no vehicles there on that particular side of the highway. And in fact, if you look there in the distance, you see the flashing lights and you can see the procession. This is moving along in front of the La Palmera Mall in that area, which is just in front of our KIII 3 News studios here. And this should give us, now that they are moving more quickly, this should give us a sense and an idea of just how long this procession is. We expected that there would be a lot of police officers involved, not only Corpus Christi police officers, but as we have already taken note of and have seen others from different agencies lined up there at Bay Area Hospital. And in fact, you can't see it, but I was looking at a split screen, and there are still patrol units and police officers pulling out of the parking lot of the hospital. And what you're seeing here live is the beginning of that procession as it makes its way along SPID. This is what is called a walk of honor for Officer Kyle Hicks. They are taking his body via ambulance that you see there right behind the motorcycle officers, taking his body to the Corpus Christi airport, where we were told earlier today by Chief Mike Markle that the body will be flown to the Dallas airport, where his body will be taken to a donor harvesting center in accordance with his wishes. And again, police officers moving to shut down, as we believe here, a big stretch of the highway, diverting traffic onto the side roads in order to proceed with what they are doing here in escorting that ambulance. And again, this is right in front of our KIII studio, moving along SPID, headed toward the airport. You see up there officers going ahead in order to move people off of the highway. We think it'll probably likely be that way the entire way. As again, this has not been a quick procession. This is a lengthy procession. Again, you don't see it, but I'm looking at a screen over on the other side where there are still units leaving the hospital. And so what you're seeing here is the beginning of that procession. Many Corpus Christi police officers involved, people of other units, the Sheriff's Department, the Border Patrol. We have seen just about every law enforcement agency represented here. We even saw members of our own Corpus Christi Fire Department. And you see the distance there. That tells you that this may take a while as they are not lined up bumper to bumper, but they are escorting with some distance between the patrol units there. Again, something that they do, and this will be going on for a while. We're going to continue to watch this as it moves along in front of La Palmera Mall, as it moves in front of our KIII studios. Again, the goal here is that they are heading out to the airport with the body of Officer Kyle Hicks, who we were informed during our newscast yesterday, and were able to inform those of you who were watching at 5 o'clock of his passing, a tragedy after he had been fighting for his life this week in the hospital following a shooting that happened early on Saturday morning last weekend, as he was in the course of his duties responding to a domestic disturbance call at a Southside apartment complex. Again, I think we said earlier, and it is worth saying again, this is not something that you see very often in Corpus Christi. The story, the narrative across the nation is that this happens more often than it should. We all believe that. But here in Corpus Christi, we have had officers who have been killed in the line of duty, officers who have passed away. We have been able to see very public funerals, including just a few years back of a former Corpus Christi police chief who was here, Police Chief Floyd Simpson. Officer Alan McCullum comes to mind. So we have seen these things, but as we have reported, it has been since 1987 that a Corpus Christi police officer was shot and killed in the line of duty. And so in one sense, we are fortunate it has been that long. In another sense, it is a tragedy that it had to happen this time and this week. We're continuing to watch the procession that is moving toward the Corpus Christi airport. Again, as we predicted here, a lengthy procession of first responders of all kinds, of Corpus Christi police officers, other departments who have sent their officers, even in something as small, seemingly, as this, to pay their respects and to pay their honor. As the body of Officer Hicks is being taken to our airport, where it will then be loaded onto a plane and flown to Dallas, where there is a harvesting center for those who are organ donors. And that was his wish and his desire, according to his family, as we were able to tell you here yesterday. And that is what they are following through with now this afternoon. This procession, again, a lengthy one, as we are looking at it, passing just in front of the KIII 3 News studio, and they are moving on toward the airport. As long as this procession is, it would be my guess here that some of them may be arriving at the airport just before a lot of these are even able to get on there and to be a part of the procession. Now I'm watching, and I see that traffic is still being diverted onto side roads. We are over at a different location as we are waiting for the body to arrive. Again, we do have cameras along the route, and we'll try to check in with some of those here in just a moment to see if they are coming to the airport. Now, what you're seeing here on the screen are the officers who appear to be near the airport, and it looks as though they are getting some word is that they are now gearing up and getting ready for that procession. That does tell us that at least the front part of the procession appears to be there near the airport. And as we're looking, I'm looking at another screen, and there along SPID, it looks as though they are allowing traffic back on to the highway now, and so the end of that procession has passed by our KIII studios and has moved along SPID. Again, this looks to be over at the airport at Glasson and International, it seems to be. We saw a shot there of 2 police officers on motorcycles, and as soon as we took that shot, it appeared that they were getting word that the procession was making its way there to the airport. And as you can see, we have a photographer there who is now looking to see. We expect that any moment we'll be able to see the beginning of that lengthy procession, perhaps making its way down the road. Again, this is back to the live shot in front of our KIII studio along SPID. You can even see a few police officers, a few patrol units mixed in, but for a while they had traffic shut down there as they were looking at the procession, allowing the procession to move toward the airport. It appears that they are letting traffic back on now, though, and so the procession there, a lengthy one, has passed. Again, we do have folks out at the airport, and one of the things that we will apologize for is that sometimes the signal is not exactly what we want it to be in cases like this, and so we are, in fact, there is a live picture as you see the police units getting ready to receive the procession there at the airport, and we'll just apologize ahead of time if that picture goes out. We will endeavor for that not to happen, but in some of these circumstances and in some of these instances, getting a signal is not everything that we hope it will be. We did see officers earlier on their motorcycles, and again, you see a patrol unit there, the lights and the sirens, and any moment we expect that they will be pulling onto the grounds of the airport. And in fact, you look there and you see an officer signaling for traffic to move ahead as they're trying to clear some of the people who were there at the airport for different and various other reasons, and they're quickly trying to move them through ahead of that procession moving on to the airport grounds. We know that once that happens and once that procession arrives, they'll just, again, as they have done along the highway and through other roads from Bay Area Hospital all the way over to the airport, they'll have to shut down some of those roads and just stop traffic to allow the procession to go through. All of this in honor of Officer Kyle Hicks, who passed away yesterday after fighting valiantly for his life during the week. As we have tried to bring you updates and reports, Officer Hicks remained in the hospital following a shooting that happened very early Saturday morning in the line of duty as he was responding to a domestic disturbance call at a Southside apartment complex. Something that none of our officers ever hope to encounter is that level of violence, something they train and prepare for, something that they work very hard to avoid, and in many, many cases do everything, in fact, more than you and I would perhaps think, to de-escalate those situations. And in some cases, though, that is just not enough. And in some cases, things happen so quickly and you end up with what we have and have been reporting on this week, a tragedy in the loss of life of a Corpus Christi police officer, something that has not happened here since the late 1980s. Now, what you're looking at here is a live shot from the airport. The procession that began earlier at about 2:45 this afternoon from Bay Area Hospital over along Williams Drive, making its way out to the airport. And we've seen some movement here that indicates, at least to us, that that procession either has arrived or should be arriving momentarily at the airport. Again, the goal here is to move through the airport. There is an ambulance carrying the body of Officer Hicks. They're going to take that ambulance to a waiting airplane where the remains will be loaded onto an airplane and flown to Dallas. And you may wonder, why would they be moving the officer's body to North Texas? One of the things that we were told earlier today when we were able to communicate with Chief Mike Markle is that as we reported yesterday here, Officer Hicks is an organ donor, and there is a harvest center for organ donations that is in Dallas, and so that's why they're taking the body there. That also helps us to explain to you why there have been no details released or no announcements made regarding any kind of funeral or any kind of public ceremony for Officer Hicks here in Corpus Christi. We did ask the chief about that, and he was able to tell us at least that they are still working with the family on those kinds of arrangements, but that they don't have anything set in stone as of right now. And so as they work on that, and as they are given the time to work on that, they ask that all of us be respectful of that process. Right now, this is the immediate concern, is getting Officer Hicks's body to Dallas in order that his final wishes may be honored there. We imagine that in the coming days, they will continue to talk about any kind of public service, public funeral, public arrangements, whether that be here in Corpus Christi or where. We just don't know enough yet even to speculate on that, but we have been assured that as those details are put in place, that we will be given those, and we, of course, will share them with you as soon as we get an idea. Again, you're looking at a live shot of the near the Corpus Christi airport, where officers are now trying to move through traffic that may be there at the airport just in the normal course of business, and trying to get them moved so that they can have the streets cleared for the procession, the walk of honor, as Chief Markle called it earlier and told us earlier when he was telling us about this happening, trying to get that cleared so that the procession that is escorting the ambulance carrying the body of Officer Hicks will arrive and then be taken to an airplane. And again, we have watched, and we're watching earlier, the procession, and just giving you an idea as we saw it even taking so much time to move from Bay Area Hospital onto SPID, and then for several minutes thereafter, even with a clear path and no traffic to have to navigate, you saw how long it took for them to proceed down SPID in order to make their way toward the airport. Once they get off of SPID, and we imagine moving perhaps down Highway 44, it takes a bit to get to the airport, and then they'll have to exit before they can actually get onto the airport grounds. The units that we're seeing, along with some of the police motorcycle units that we saw earlier, are those that have no doubt been sent ahead in order to prepare the way and in order to make sure that once that procession does reach the airport, that there will be no delay, no snag, and that they can very smoothly and very quickly move along the airport grounds in order to get where they're going, in order to get that ambulance to an airplane to be able to then load the remains of Officer Kyle Hicks. Now, this has been something that we received word of earlier today, just before lunchtime, as a matter of fact, and it was not long after that that people began to gather and begin to line up in order to be a part of a way of honoring the officer. And so we were able to show you earlier, and for almost an hour, the people who had lined up there at the hospital wanting to be a part of this procession. One of the things that we have told you and that you may be surprised about as we are waiting for the procession now to move into the airport, you may be surprised to learn that the body of Officer Kyle Hicks has to go all the way to Dallas in order to have his organs harvested in order to give the gift of life to someone else. Now, as I have said, we would be speculating on some of the reasons for that right now because we just don't know enough about that. Our Josh Maxwell, though, is looking at organ donation in our area, and so he's putting together a report for us, and we're going to have that story for you coming up here tonight on 3 News at 10. It has raised a lot of questions in our mind, and we imagine as you have been watching this live coverage of the escort, the procession escorting the body of Officer Hicks, perhaps there have been some questions in your mind as well. Perhaps you have been a part of something that involved a process like that. But again, we just didn't have enough information to know. And the job of reporters is to find out. And that's something that Josh Maxwell will be looking into for us so that we can have that story for you coming up tonight at 10. We're also, as we have been recording, I know some of the footage that we've been bringing to you live here today, getting a sense of just how large and how long that procession is. I know that we will be able to reshare some of that on our newscasts at 5, 6, and 10 on 3 News. And of course, we are thankful and grateful that you continue to stay with us here online as we are bringing you live procession. Now, you'll look at your screen now and you see the number of motorcycle officers who we saw earlier leading that procession down SPID, and right behind them, as if on cue, is the ambulance that we have been telling you is carrying the body of Officer Kyle Hicks, who, as we discovered, as we were told and found out yesterday during our 5 p.m. newscast, passed away after being shot during a domestic disturbance call that happened early Saturday morning. Beyond that are the number of Corpus Christi police patrol cars who are paying their respects in this procession for Officer Kyle Hicks, this walk of honor that we were told about earlier today. And beyond that, we will, of course, see a myriad of other units, other agencies, others who have joined in to give honor and tribute in this way, something you would expect as you see something of a tragedy of this nature. Now, obviously, they have slowed as they have moved on to the airport grounds. Other traffic has been diverted and moved, and so none of that will be there. But there, the ambulance carrying the body of now deceased Officer Kyle Hicks. You kind of take in a moment like this and you try to picture this, and as we mentioned, thankfully we don't see this that often here in South Texas, in Corpus Christi, but when we do, it just reminds you of the magnitude and the solidarity and the brotherhood, the sisterhood that exists among first responders who serve us and who do so many things that never make it onto the news. So many ways that they risk themselves, they risk their lives, the worries that their families have for the jobs that they have sworn to do that you never hear about. They do that almost routinely, day in and day out. We're watching now the salutes from others along the way there at the airport, and they appear to be lots of folks in uniform there standing at rapt attention, offering their condolences and their wishes of peace for the family of Officer Hicks, and their salute of sacrifice for the officer in how he gave his life protecting those of us who live and work here in Corpus Christi. Now, we are watching and know that just based on what we were able to see earlier, that this line of patrol cars, of police officers, of others will be pouring into the airport for quite a while. We don't know if there's a place where they will have to stop because there are just so many of them. We don't know whether they'll be escorted, we suspect, directly onto the tarmac close to the airplane that will then take Officer Hicks's body to the Dallas airport, where, as we mentioned a moment ago, his organs will be harvested for donation. That is coming close to the end of this procession, and so because of that, we're going to bring an end to this coverage. Very moving to see this tribute that began way over at Bay Area Hospital and is ending now at the Corpus Christi Airport as others continue to pour into the airport grounds. We will, of course, have more coming up tonight on our newscasts at 5, 6, and then again at 10. We hope that you'll join us for that, and then stay with us online as we will continue to put information there as well on all of our social media pages, on our website, KIIITV.com, and on our Facebook page as well. We will continue to remember Officer Kyle Hicks, the now deceased Corpus Christi police officer, and we'll keep you abreast of all the arrangements that are made in the days ahead, and we'll continue to watch and hear from not only Corpus Christi Police, but also sharing with you the wishes of the family in this moment. That'll wrap it up for now. Mike Gillespie in the 3 News Digital Center. Thanks for joining us this afternoon.